was Oliver Smith or, you know, Above and Beyond, that was definitely not me singing. If it was my music, it was definitely me singing.
I loved you on the Sirens of the Sea album.
Thank you. I've decided to rename my act to Zoe Johnston.
Well, I'm just saying, I checked it out, and it was good.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I would say see me in the dealer den. You could even buy a CD, but it closes at the end of this panel unless I speed talk through this. We get through in half an hour. So normally I like to, you know, fuck it, I'm going to stand because there's a the table leg is like right in the middle here, and my OCD prevents me from sitting one side or the other. So. Well, since
But it's fine with the tablecloths not being even.
Since he's filming the whole thing, I'm just going to be doing this throughout the whole panel. Oh, I broke my step goal. All right, cool. that was pretty quick. Yeah. Hey, all right, and somewhere to put it. Are you going to stand here and hold it the whole time? Let's do this on a chair, actually. Let's do this out front.
Yeah.
See this?
Thank you. Would you grab this? Sure.
I mean, you can put the chair right there on the table.
Yeah, good. You know. Not bad idea.
Nice and high, everyone can see it.
Yeah, fuck it. Actually, never mind. That is. Why aren't you leading this fucking panel? There we go. Hey, that'll work. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay. Is it actually time? Oh, we're time. We should have started already. All right, so. That's probably just going to distract everyone. I'm going to turn you off here.
Yeah.
But the shiny.
Do I have to pay attention?
Yeah, yes, you do. So, actually seeing a few people that I do not recognize from my previous two
I
panels.
brought friends.
Yeah, yay.
They forced us.
Always
at
good.
knife point.
It was terrible.
We're here under duress.
Hey, it's all right.
It's alright, I'll get under your duress.
I'm. Oh, boy, someone lied to your ass. You want a piece of popcorn? I got some popcorn. That's about it. Okay. And yeah, I'm awake under duress, so I feel you.
Right? It's like I wasn't entirely ready for this.
Yeah. So, for those of you that missed the first two segments of my panel series, screw you, you should have been to them, so I'm not going to recap anything. No, my name is Matthew Evil, and thank you for the courtesy chuckle. My name is Matthew
It was more
Evil.
like a courtesy squeak.
Yeah, well, it kind of was, wasn't it?
That was my nickname in college.
So, sorry, my name is Matthew Evil. If you're not familiar with what I do, I've been a musician, a professional musician since 1999, so yes, I'm an old fucker. And I have been a full-time musician since 2007. So I've been making a living entirely from my art for 12 years now. Jesus, it's been 12 years now.
All
It helps, actually, trust me. Like, not having access to high-calorie foods
yeah.
keeps you nice and svelte, you know.
Starvation.
Yes, but I've also, you know, made my living through voice work and doing song commissions and stuff like that for people. But effectively, I have been self-unemployed for 12 years now. So another piece of qualification for you is the fact that 5 years before Patreon existed, I was doing a Patreon. I rolled my own premium fan club service by a combination of WordPress and a paid plugin called a Member, and was doing effectively exactly what Patreon does 5 years before Patreon was even a thing. So I'm not a marketing genius. I don't have any I actually don't have any formal business training whatsoever. Everything that I'm about to talk about just comes from experience running a music business. Does that make sense? Does that work? It's a gutless disclaimering out of the way here.
I'm sorry, real quick. Could you say your name again?
Matthew Evil.
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 Evil. Thank you.
And if you were at my branding panel, you would understand why I also own MatthewEvil.com.
You didn't actually mention that.
I know I didn't mention
but
that.
I was thinking of that.
Yeah, like, and I'm not a good enough programmer to basically have it so if you go to MatthewEvil.com, it not only forwards you to my website, but changes everything so all my photos have glowing red eyes. Because that would be fucking great. Or it has me like without a goatee. Like that Star Trek Mirror Universe thing.
Oh, that was a good episode.
No. Episode nothing. They milked that in every season like they had when Voyager went there at one point.
Oh gosh.
I'm a nerd.
Not to mention the series of books.
Yes. Whenever they ran out of plot. I'll just go there. So yes, I'm actually not going to start with Patreon because effectively this entire session is about subscriptions. It's about getting people to follow you. Wow, indeed. To follow you either for free or for money. And if you're not familiar with what is called the sales funnel, does anybody here know what the sales funnel is? You familiar with this? Cool. I get to introduce people to a term I learned from my marketing friends. So, this is one of the most basic tenets of running a business. One of the basic tenets of marketing and sales. It's called the sales funnel, and it is so named because basically it's a funnel with multiple stages. You want your customers to end up here. But you can't just pitch become one of my VIP subscribers to any asshole off the street, somebody who's just discovered your art, your music, your book, whatever. The top of the sales funnel is where most of the people are going to engage with you. The most basic part of this is going to be join my mailing list. So, there's very minimal investment. All they have to do is write their name and their email address down and they can back out at any time. You're going to get the most people to actually sign up for your mailing list if you get a mailing list. Where you eventually want them is to, in my case, subscribe to one of my playlists on Spotify or something. Because that gives me a little bit of money at this point. Again, very low investment on the part of the customer to say, subscribe. There we go. So, very low investment on the part of the customer, but I start getting money from that. And fewer people are going to go for that than are going to sign up for the mailing list, hence the funnel. Even fewer people than that are going to buy a CD. Even fewer people than that are going to show up to one of my concerts, and so on and so on and so on, all the way down to eventually what is sort of the holy grail these days for artists is some kind of VIP interaction, which we will just loosely refer to as Patreon. Does this make sense? Am I losing anybody on this? Anybody got any questions? Okay. If at any point you have any questions or you if you need clarification or if you even want to add something, just shoot a hand up. Let me know, okay? Excuse me. So, the reason I lump mailing lists and VIP services like Patreon into this one session is because they're effectively the two ends of the sales funnel for an artist. At the top, you have minimal investment, just, hey, I'm interested in this person and I want to keep hearing from them. At the bottom, it's, I'm going to pay this person money every fucking month. That's the goal. If you have 1,000 people on your mailing list, though, one or two of them will get down to the bottom of this. So we have to be very clear about this. Setting up a Patreon, even if you have all your shit together and you've got a good workflow going like that, do not expect that if you have 100 people on your mailing list, you're going to have 100 people on Patreon. In the beginning, it will be a higher percentage because your hardcore fans are, obviously all going to run for that as fast as they can. But law of averages here, far more people are going to be a fan, but somewhere up here. So starting with a mailing list, how many of you actually are already running a business, like you deal at cons or something like that? I know you are. Is anybody actually doing any of this for money yet?
I have a DBA here.
Oh, okay, cool. So, do you have a mailing list?
I know, right? That's what
Yeah.
I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah. If you've considered selling art or something on Fur Affinity or whatnot, it's tempting to just consider that your main vehicle for communicating with your customers, with your fans. But as I said during the website session yesterday, Fur Affinity is not your website. You know, Twitter is not your website. Facebook is not your fucking website. Tell that to every club in the Seattle area, by the way, please. Ah. Yeah, you tell them. Whoever said hi, yeah, thank you. My old friends Chris Penn and John Wall, who run the Marketing Over Coffee podcast. I'm going to write this one down, actually. Oh, he brought me a pen. He didn't bring me a fucking eraser. Thanks, guy.
Yeah, I was going to notice that.
Well, whatever.
You want me to run and grab something?
Maybe.
I'm gonna do it.
Paper towel, even, whatever. It's like,
Here,
okay.
just use your sock.
This work.
Oh, you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Here,
Good
you have
wash.
yeah.
Oh, thank you. I could just use this tacky Hawaiian shirt. So, a couple friends of mine run something called the Marketing Over Coffee podcast, which, if you are serious about actually making a business, I would recommend listening to that, like while you're, showering or shitting or commuting to work or whatever. You laugh, but like I'm learning Spanish while pooping. I mean, like we have little devices in our pockets now that let that be productive time, doubly productive, I should say. Sometimes singly productive, but it happens to everyone.
Producing something.
The Marketing Over Coffee podcast, a lot of it is very like high-level Fortune 500 company marketing trend stuff, but in pretty much every episode, there is some actionable information that little guys like us can use. And they often point to resources like books and stuff like that. So one of the scariest things about running your own business as an artist is having to be a fucking salesperson or a marketer. If we really wanted to go into that line of work, we would have done that instead of drawing things or making thumping noises in a padded room like I do. So they keep laughing like I'm not just telling you my life. Like this is literally what I do.
You have to understand, I'm one of those sarcastic people that changes everything into humor.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's how I live my life. That's how I'm not in an insane asylum.
Hey, if you can capitalize on that, be my guest. So email is still the number one way to stay in touch with your customers. And again, it is the best way to sort of push people through the sales funnel. Obviously, you want them to follow you on Facebook, Twitter, that kind of stuff. Like anywhere you can engage with people is good, but your mailing list... back to Chris Penn and John Wall. They have a phrase, you live and die by your house list. When MySpace goes tits up, when Facebook will eventually get shut down by the EU or whatever, when Fur Affinity goes, it's down, back up again, it's down. How do you get in touch with your customers if you're only relying on FA notes or something like that? I hear from too many artists who they have commissioners that now can't get in touch with them. They can't communicate with the people paying them money and arrange for said payment of money because FA just went down and that's the only place they're doing business. You live and die by your house list. And you should send out an email like once a week at most, once or twice a month at least. There's a balance. Most of us who sign up for a mailing list, sign up for something from an artist, are okay with one or two things from them a month. And you can segment your mailing list if you plan to send stuff out more regularly than that. Like I do a weekly live stream DJ set from my studio, and if you want that notification via email, like you can say, yeah, tell me about streaming things. The first thing I would recommend for doing this is obviously when you get a dealer table, get a clipboard. It's that simple. And this is quite possibly the best way to get people to sign up for your email list, is just tell people to sign up for your email list. It's like, hey, you like my art? You're not going to buy one? Well, hey, why don't you sign up? I send out some, free images, and you'll know when I'm at, cons in the future, that kind of thing. whatever your pitch is going to be, have the clipboard at the edge of the table right next to the free shit, the stickers or candy or whatever you're giving away, and even if you don't sell something to them, you have the potential to start them off and start making money off of these people and create a relationship with them over time. Does that make sense? Good. You all are more awake than I am. That's great. For God's sake, don't just BCC a list of people either. Thank you. Because eventually you will hit CC instead and send your whole mailing list to somebody. And anytime I have an asshole doing that to me, I reply all. And just say, thanks for giving me all these email addresses, sucker. Anyway. Setting up a mailing list is super duper easy. Best of all, it's free. If you're a nerd, who am I kidding? I know where I am right now. If you're a nerd, you can set up your own, server, mail server. Not like an email, like you're checking your email, but like a mail delivery server, a mail marketing server. Like Postman, I think is one. There's one that I used to use until I started using real service. But I would recommend using a real service, one of which is my personal favorites, MailChimp.
I was wondering if that would be.
Oh yeah. MP, there we go. Stupid name, fantastic service. It is free up to your first 500 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers, something like that. So like,
actually 250, but
That's
maybe they
generous.
changed it.
yeah, something like that. Like I have a couple thousand people on my mailing list, which is not much, by the way. I have a couple thousand people on my mailing list, and it costs me like $30 a month. But once you get to the point where you have a critical mass of people on your mailing list, you should actually be making enough revenue from them as customers to afford at least that basic expense. Another well-known one is Constant Contact, who I used to use, but And if you have a web hosting service, if you already have a website, a lot of times, people like Bluehost or Wix or whatever you're using will actually have an email marketing side of things as well. The reason I recommend MailChimp to people is they don't just their interface is very good, their templates are very good, their system is very slick, their APIs are very good, but more importantly, they have name recognition, so people know that if they see that and they know that if they sign up for your mailing list, you're not just going to spam them if they try to unsubscribe. You will get in deep shit. MailChimp is very serious about that. Also, they integrate with a lot of things. So if you're running events, like I do on occasion, you can connect it to your Eventbrite account or something and see analytics, and the email addresses of people who buy tickets can cross over into your MailChimp account, stuff like that. It's really flexible. And again, free, okay, to start out with. Let's see here. Oh yeah, very basic. If you were there yet for yesterday's panels, and I remember me saying, do not buy followers on a social media account. Do not sign people up who did not actually sign up for your email list. Why the fuck would you do that? Why the fuck does anybody do that? Right. Who becomes a customer of somebody who fucking spams them? I never understood how this works. But my philosophy has always been the kind of person who would actually become a customer from me just adding them to a mailing list and spamming them out of the blue. I really don't want to be friends with that person. If you're that stupid as to not immediately hit the complaint button. Do not ever sign people up who didn't sign up, and do not buy followers. Do not buy mailing list people, because all it's going to do is cost you money anyway. You can buy marketing databases out there. There are services that just have bunches of email addresses. Facebook, basically, that's how they make money. They sell your email address to people. My bank, before I ditched them, made money by selling their customers' data to marketers. You can do that. You can just buy fucking lists of email addresses to spam to. Do not. It is not worth it, and it is a quick way to get like a service like MailChimp or Constant Contact to cancel your account, and you got to start all over again. What you should do, however, is keep backups of your database, monthly, yearly, whatever. But in case, I don't know, like they get the wrong impression, or you are doing something sleazy and they shut your account down, at the very least, you have your house list in your possession, which you can't do with Fur Affinity. All you got is a list of usernames. You know, you can't do it with Facebook. All you have is a list of real names. We'll call them that. Now, I can't tell you what kind of content to put out because that's going to vary from person to person. What I can say is it shouldn't always be product announcements. It shouldn't always be event announcements. Like the same philosophy with blogging. Send out stuff that is not the product to these people who want to peek behind the curtain. Like once in a while, just send them an email about, you know, like the creation process that you've gone through for a piece you're working on right now. Give them a little, take some photos of whatever you're doing. Like give them a sneak peek, a peek behind the curtain. Give them a reason to be on your mailing list. So the reason why most people don't want to sign up for mailing lists is like you're just going to try and sell shit to me all the time. Do something more than just try and sell shit. Make it a relationship. And if they hit reply and answer to you, fucking answer them. You know, like if you ever get to the point where you can't keep up with all those emails, great. That's a good problem to have. Then you can start like, you know, ignoring the bottom tier email replies. But like, make sure you reply to everybody that gets to you. But I mean, these are just the basics of running a mailing list. But I can't stress to you enough how fucking easy it is to do, and free. And it is the start of running a successful business as an artist. No, that's not true. Having art that's worth buying is the start. The business side of things. This is sort of the beginning, like, because this is how you build your robot army. You know. Any questions thus far? Because after that, I'm basically just going to shoot right to the bottom of the sales funnel. Okay, because you all just came in here to learn about Patreon shit anyway, didn't you? All right, that's fine. Anybody not know what Patreon is? Okay.
I'm just lying.
Genuinely don't.
What? Fuck this guy. So genuinely don't. So Patreon is a service by which you send out things on a regular basis to your fans, subscribers, whatever you want to call them, customers in this case, and they pay you money. And it's a subscription-based service. It's not just yet another e-commerce store. They sign up and pledge $1 a month, $5 a month, $15 a month, $100 a month, whatever you want to charge them. And it's just like, you're familiar with Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's basically like that. You can set tiers of membership and rewards that correspond to those tiers, and people can sign up for that, and they sign up once and money just comes out of their account every month, so you better fucking deliver.
Yeah. And it does go to you.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they take a cut,
Well, of course.
obviously, but it's
every website does that.
yeah. And I ran, like I said, MatthewEble.net for 5 years before Patreon was a thing. And it is absolutely worth whatever Patreon is taking for them to handle the tech side of things.
Yeah.
Because I spent a lot of, and especially with modern regulations, you know, like credit card payments and customer data and shit like that, like it is so very much worth it, whatever they're taking right now.
Plus, people see Patreon, they recognize it. And they
That
trust
too.
it.
It is now a trusted, almost a household name if you're following an artist, or if you watch any channel on YouTube. My story with MatthewEble.net. Oh yeah. So, backing up a bit to the system that I created, and this is, I'm doing this not just to show you how like ingenious or something I am. Fursuiter literally being dragged away. Sorry.
You can see all the fantastic things.
You don't want to know. So, there I was on Block Island, Rhode Island, doing the meat-based jukebox thing out on the beach, playing 4 hours of fucking Bon Jovi covers every single day, 4 days a week for 2 summers. With crappy amounts of internet and realizing this is like immediately post-Katrina. I'm an old fucker. This is immediately post-Katrina, so gas prices had just skyrocketed. For no reason, by the way. You notice they never came back down again?
Yeah.
Anyway. And I'm realizing like there's no way for me to ever make money again as an indie musician going on a road trip. Not at $4 a gallon.
Yeah.
And parts of the country at the time, it was literally $4 a gallon for the first time. Now we just sort of get used to that, like, oh, it's Memorial Day weekend, of course it's $4 a gallon. A friend of mine was running something called Ringtone Feeder. Remember when you actually paid money for ringtones? Yeah. I'm an old fucker. He set up something where he would create ringtones and send them out as a subscription thing. So you would have a fresh like ringtone from this guy if you liked his music once a month. And he charged money for that, and people do it, and he told me how to build that service. Side to that, I also went through, I should be in front of the camera, I also helped out with Ariel Hyatt's seminar on doing VIP treatments, basically, the VIP thing. Clubs don't make their money, by the way, on you paying a cover charge and buying beer. They make their money on the VIPs, the people who want to pay way too much money for bottle service and have their own table and stuff like that. The VIPs are, I mean, the super sponsors at a con are what make the con happen, you know? So combining those two, she told me a story once about how Prince really made money. I mean, Prince made money releasing popular songs and playing concerts that would sell out. But the thing is, after a concert, they would take over a local nightclub, and people would pay upwards of like $2,000 just to be in this nightclub with Prince, hanging out with Prince. And we're talking like, you know, like 500 people, 1,000 people, all paying like $2,000 or something to be there. Even if they're only paying $500, like you can do the math. If it's $500 times 1,000 people, if it's $1,000 times 1,000 people, that's a shit ton of money just to show up and drink. And that doesn't go to the record label. A lot of that goes to his management, but you know what I mean. Like that's money right there. That's a VIP experience. I got to hang out with Prince at a nightclub in an exclusive environment. That's the secret right there. So, combining those two, you have the ability to create an exclusive VIP relationship with your hardest core of fans, your hardest core of customers, the people, the very few, the very proud that are going to be at the bottom of the sales funnel. And you don't have to rent out a nightclub to do it. That's what Patreon and services like it really excel at. Now, some people try to treat it like it's a marketplace, like the only way that you can make money is to try selling subscriptions and shit through Patreon. But if you treat it more like if you view it more like a VIP fan club, it's a much better way to utilize it. Because one of the tricky things about running a service like this is you still have to make shit for people who aren't on your Patreon to buy. You still have to make shit that shows the rest of the world that you're an artist, unless you're already huge.
I mean, I can definitely attest to that. When there's people on Patreon, it's like the only way to commission me is if you're on my Patreon, and there's always discussions amongst, you know, everybody else who's not on the Patreon. It's like, that sucks.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to like give you even. I was like, I want to just commission you. I don't want to. No, there's a difference between.
Can't I just hand you money once?
Yeah, yeah. And there's a difference between I open my slots up first for the Patreon people, and then to the the people who are not. There's a difference between that to exclusivity to only the Patreon.
Yeah. Amen to that.
And it gives like a completely different view of the person. Like. We all understand that, like, you need to make money, but it's like, there's a difference between, well, that's kind of dickish, and to, like, okay, I can understand
gatekeeping your commission slots entirely.
Yeah, I'll tell you where that comes from, too. That comes from the struggle to create that exclusivity and not really understanding how to do it properly. You know, I struggled with that for years. When I first started doing MatthewEvil.net, and by the way, this is how we're actually. I think this might be the perfect segue into my next thing on here. Yeah, actually. So, oh yeah, one last thing about how Patreon actually works. Patreon itself. There's two ways that you can do it. You can either charge people per month or per thing. Now, their credit cards are charged monthly, but if you're releasing anywhere, like I do, anywhere between 1 to 3 things per month, or maybe you're going to have a busy month and can't release anything, you can do it on a per thing basis, as opposed to a monthly subscription, which is, I prefer doing it that way because if I get the flu and can't produce for 2 weeks and then I've got to do a con and I can't send anything out the door, my patrons do not get charged a dime. So it's protection for them. Makes it a little harder for you to budget based on how many people are signed up for things, but at the very least you can help protect them that way. But you have to choose which option is going to be better for you depending on what kind of art and what kind of production schedule you can maintain. Speaking of production schedule, when I started doing MatthewEvil.net, I was initially promising even the most basic bottom tier 2 new songs per month, 1 live recording per month. There was like an annual goodie bag. I was doing after parties at conventions. There were other like exclusive things that I was offering. But let's back up to just those first 3 things. 2 new songs a month and 1 live recording every month, which means, yeah, I need to write, produce, and release a song that I think is worth charging money for every 2 weeks without fail, with absolutely no break whatsoever. And then I also need to book, get to, perform a gig, record that gig, come back, engineer it to the point where I would consider releasing it as like a live album every month. On top of all the other shit, and getting back to the exclusivity thing, I also had to release shit for people that weren't on Patreon. So, I nearly died. It fucking sucked. And let me tell you something. It not only makes you hate art if you try to promise too much, if you try to over-deliver. Once you start backing off of those promises, it makes you look bad. It tarnishes your reputation as an artist. You're better off starting very small and then adding things as you realize what your work schedule is going to be like. So, let's start from the beginning. So you want to create something like this. What time is it? 3:30. Okay, we're good. Which is kind of perfect timing. Any questions at this point? Okay, so let's assume that you already have a website, you're already like selling stuff at conventions. If you're not quite to that point, you're wondering how to even start with that kind of thing, you should have been here yesterday.
No,
What?
Friday.
Oh, it was Friday. God, yesterday was a blur.
How drunk were you?
After the show, hung out with Alkali. Do I need to say more? Right.
Did you meet a necromancer? Did you bring back?
No, I'm at a weed pen. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said. So what I'm assuming at this point is that you already have like the basics of running an art business, whether it's a furry art business or not. And this could be like me, a musician. Most of you are drawers. You draw things. So nobody ever laughs at that. Don't do it now. You just encourage me. Whether you're an animator, whether you're a baker, whatever, I'm assuming you already have your business running to the point where you're selling normal products like prints or commissions or something like that. But you want to get to, I erased the sales funnel, you want to get to the point where you can just create things and expect the money to come in on a regular basis. We all want that regular income. And that's what keeps us in business. So, start with a menu. I actually use my outline for this like a grown-up. There we go. think of, first of all, list everything that you can think of. Actually, does anybody need these names up here anymore? Nope. Good. All right. So, start with a menu of everything that you think you can produce on a regular basis. So we're going to call this the production list. This is everything that you think you can make on a regular basis. And regular means weekly, monthly, yearly, bi-yearly, whatever you want to call regularly, but on a schedule. Something that you can promise and actually deliver. So, obviously, number one, art releases. The actual finished fucking product. For me, songs, albums, videos, whatever. For some of you guys, finished colored pieces or comic books or videos or whatever you do for your art. For authors? Not exactly. I've released chapters. I'm also an author, too.
I've got ideas already going on.
Okay.
Because aside from the book itself, merchandising. So creating character buttons, creating bookmarks.
Creating characters for your patrons and working them into the book as a walk-on part somehow.
And I mean, I guess I can see what you're saying, because I do 3 or 4 throwaway full-page poems a month, just as it is, and I don't do anything. I just never thought that would be something you could do that with. It never occurred to me.
You have to assume that the people who are going to commit to subscribing, to saying like, I want to pay you money every month, are going to be really into what you do, which is why it's the bottom of the sales funnel. It's going to be like the hardest core, the VIPs, the people who believe in you on an irrational level. You laugh. I mean that. I mean on an irrational level. There is no reason why somebody should be paying me like $45 a month just for making songs. There's no reason why people have paid $100 a month for me just to make music and send them shirts and shit. Like, it's not worth it. They think it is. It's not rational. But that's why it's called Patreon. They are patrons of the arts. They're getting more out of it spiritually than they are physically, tangibly. But this is what I'm... What's this?
Just put running.
No, this is good. This is good. It means I'm actually sparking some imagination here, so this is great. But, I mean, this is what I'm getting at. Think of anything you can think of that you can make for those dedicated people. The actual art releases being number one, videos. And I don't just mean like produce like animated videos if you're an animator. I mean like videos about how you make your things. Videos of me working in the studio on like how I made this bass line happen. Again, I should take that advice. Yeah, or something like that. Hangouts and events, like live streaming interactions with them. Weirdly enough, people still think that that's like a valuable commodity. I don't get it, but people like it. Like fan-only webcasts, subscriber-only webcasts. Personalized works for high-tier fans. Like if somebody is a high enough subscriber, they get a commission slot, guaranteed commission slot for free, well, for whatever they're signing up for, once a month, once a year, or once every quarter, whatever you're capable of producing. There's something you had recommended to me, that I did not add to my outline.
Also, go on Patreon and see what other people who do what you do are offering.
That's literally the next thing on my outline after this mega menu. Like, get some ideas, I've stolen half of her ideas.
Quit ruining it for him.
Yeah. He's making it
Okay,
so
I stole some ideas from you too.
Yeah, that's the way. And again, your competition is not the other artists. Your competition is TV, is radio, is smoking weed and jerking off. Like your competition
We have
is
to get other people interested.
yeah, like your audience and this person's audience. Unless they're super stalker VIPs, they're not into only one artist.
And making friends among artists like we're doing here is some of the best promotion. You have.
And I covered that yesterday or Friday. All right, I covered that on Friday too.
10,000 fans, and you mentioned him.
Yeah,
they're going to look up his name.
Yeah, cross-pollination of audiences is not just a cool thing to do. It's a way that you build each other's audiences, you know. Anyway, I mean, well, this is why DJs do, or EDM producers do mashups and remixes of other people's stuff. Like, you know, if Above and Beyond released like a Matthew Evil remix of one of their tracks, it would make me fucking famous, you know. Anyway,
Please.
so once you've figured out some things that you can release, something that might help you decide what you can release on a regular basis is focusing on some exclusivity. Now, exclusivity can be taken to an absurd point, like you have to be a Patreon member to even commission me at all. But like you said, saying like, well, my Patreon people get first crack at commissions. That's a level of exclusivity. I'm a VIP. You know, like I got to commission them and before their queue filled up because I'm one of their in crowd. You know, that makes people feel good. Status. Why do you think you have to wait for like 18 boarding groups with one person getting on per boarding group whenever you fly Delta or American? You know, like your job is to create that premium, platinum, diamond, select, cardholder, member only boarding class. You know. Even as much as I hate doing that with airlines, your job is to make that worth it. That was a weird sound. Let's see here. Yeah. So on top of this production list, now you got to figure out what each of those items would cost retail. You're not going to sell like a Skype interview with yourself, but figure out like what you think it would be worth, like if you were famous, you know. So,
You said Skype, you're old.
yeah. Hey, people still do it. Not cost. Let's go with value. So, you got your menu of shit you think you can deliver. Figure out what it's worth to someone else. Worth to somebody who is into your art. You know, if you're a fan and you could, if you're a Foo Fighters fan and you could have a Skype call with Dave Grohl, I mean, I'd give one of my testicles for that, honestly. Like but you can't charge that on Patreon. So you have to come up with a dollar value instead. It's a family-friendly con, I swear to God. The reason you do this is not just, you know, to figure out what to charge, but also figure out if you're accurately assessing your own values, accurately assessing, like, you know, what it is you're offering as products and services. I can't help you figure out what those values are going to be. Some of them are pretty standard, like, you know, a commission in this fandom, like a color commission, well, like $100, something like that, you know, for like an 8x10 or whatever digital. For my industry, the prices are pretty much set for things like a single or, you know, an album. Like there's very little wiggle room for me. So I know exactly, like 2 songs a month, that's only really worth like a couple of bucks, you know. Unfortunately, that's retail. Or if it's on Beatport and it's like the extended mix, like $2, $2.50 per song, whatever. But like you can figure out what the menu would look like if somebody was just going to like buy these from you at a con table as opposed to being part of a value package. After you've got that figured out, create a menu, or create your production schedule. Yeah. Yes?
Actually, when you're mentioning cost, you know, cost and values,
Yes.
you should at least mention, like, you should take into account, like, the cut that Patreon takes, and then also taxes.
Getting there,
That way,
actually.
Okay.
So we haven't set tier prices yet.
Okay.
I'm gonna get to that. If any of you are good with spreadsheets, by the way, this will actually help when you set this shit up. Or if you're left-brained, if you're a left-brained artist like I am, the spreadsheet will help.
You got 15 minutes.
Jesus. All right, thank you. Before you think about money, though, before you think about like monetary costs and percentage costs and stuff like that, for those of you that were there with me on Friday, what is more valuable to you as an artist than money?
time.
Thank you. You weren't even there for this.
Yeah.
My dad has.
You just fucking know this.
My dad has a business degree.
Yeah, all right, that works.
He's been running restaurants my whole life.
So, create your production schedule. This is what almost killed me right here. Create your production schedule. Okay, so you've got this list of things that you think you can deliver. Now you got to figure out how frequently can I deliver these things. You will overestimate the amount of shit that you can get done. I'm not even going to say that as a might anymore. You will overestimate how much you can actually get done in a given amount of time. But, let's say like a one finished art piece per month, 2 Skype calls with fans, something like that, like a one behind the scenes video every month, whatever. Like the YouTubers, they have to make like weekly videos, but then they also have to do shit for their patrons as well. Figure out what kind of a production schedule you think you can maintain. Write all of that down, because that has to factor into your pricing as well. What is my time worth? Like the costs of materials are real easy to figure out, but figuring out how much time it actually takes you to do this stuff and how regularly you actually can produce this. On a good month, I can release like 4 fucking songs. Sometimes I wake up and like boom, and 3 songs fall out of me, Some months I'm struggling right to the end of the month to finish 1 production, and I don't get paid much that month. So you need to figure out what it is you can actually do. And I'll get to a method for how you do that. You're not going to like it, but I'm going to get to that near the end. And let's see here. Oh yeah, once you've created this production schedule, this is where, actually I said I was going to do it at the end, it's actually next on my album. This is where we get to figuring out like what everything costs and what the actual financial overhead is going to be for this. Do it. Actually do all this shit you wrote down and you thought that you could commit to for a year. Don't sign up for Patreon yet. Don't tell anyone you're doing this. Create a project. Create a big project that will be your coming out party, to use a very archaic term. A big project to like announce your art to the world that incorporates all this shit that you just listed. All the little extra things that you just listed as well, all the little how-to videos or behind the scenes or Q&As or whatever. Actually do that shit with nobody subscribed for a full year while nobody's looking, and fail privately, and figure out what it is that you can scale back. Keep receipts, like we said on the first panel on Friday, because you all have separate bank accounts for your business by now. Keep receipts for all of the stuff that you need, all of the mailing supplies to mail it out to whatever fans you might already have that you want to just send this to, or promotional things you want to send this to. Keep receipts of your time as well. Like actually keep a log of how long it takes you to actually do these things. Maybe even keep a log of how often you get the flu, or how often your work overworks you and makes you pull all-nighters or something like that, while you still have a day job. Like, actually keep a record of all this shit for a full year. At the end of that year, like if you're a graphic artist, actually let's go with the author thing, because that also works. Easy way to do this.
How long it takes you to do your rough draft, multiply it by 3. Rough draft, processing, finish.
Right. For you, the end project is obvious. Novel. Some kind of novel at the end of the year. Can you commit to writing, not necessarily like a chapter, but like a certain number of pages or a certain number of words every single month, and give your patrons the first draft before you even send it to a publisher or an editor or whatever?
We've actually done that with the first draft.
Cool. Right. But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, actually commit to, you don't have to send it to anybody during this first year, but commit to 12 months from right now, I will have the finished product ready to sell to the public. and then do all this shit on this schedule. This is going to make you a better artist and a better business person, by the way, whether or not you ever do a VIP service like Patreon. Do that shit on a regular schedule for the full year and figure out what your weaknesses actually are and what your realistic time schedule should actually be and what it will realistically cost. The end of that year, what do you end up with? You end up with a very well-polished portfolio of digital artwork or animation or fully produced video or for me it'd be a music album or podcasts or whatever. You have like a whole season of YouTube videos ready to just meter out without having to do any extra work. You have some kind of great, well-polished product and all this extra side shit that is kind of cool. And the bonus for this, you can start up a Kickstarter to send that stuff out, and you already have all the stuff you're going to make for all of the various tiers of supporters on Kickstarter already made because you've done it for the last year. Once you have that launched on Kickstarter, if anybody's bought it, you can then turn around and tell them, hey, by the way, I'm going to start doing this every single month. Every month you can get shit like this from me. Sign up for my Patreon, and you already know what it costs to mail this shit out if you're sending physical products, what it costs in time to actually do it, and what your expected level of quality is going to be. Now, thank you. Now I told you you're probably not going to like the answer there because nobody wants to wait a full year before jumping into something like this, but if you can't commit to a regular schedule like that for a full year, you will burn yourself out very easily trying to do something on Patreon. I did. I scaled back, and I have some amazing fans who stuck with me as I scaled back the expectations, and scaled back the expectations, and scaled back the expectations. Any questions about all of this right now? Are you all caffeinated and even awake right now?
Yes.
Okay. The one trap that I really fell into other than time management was exclusivity. Because, again, like if I'm creating, initially I promised these 2 songs a month would only be for my patrons, would only be for MatthewEble.net. But that means I had to make at least 3 songs per month if I was going to release like a 12-song album at the end of the year, on top of all the other shit I was doing exclusively for my patrons. Exclusivity, like total exclusivity is really cool, but you have to realistically be able to do that. You have to understand that thing that you're making totally exclusive for your patrons is only going to go to the tiniest fraction of your actual fan base. Even if you only have like 10 people who are interested in your art, like only that one person is going to be so into your art that they're going to be on Patreon or something. So you still have to make products. What I do with my music is I send it to Patreon first, and the good stuff, the really good stuff, especially the stuff that the Officers Club, I call it, my officers really like, that's what I send out to record labels to see if they're going to be interested in, and then that gets released to the public. But they get it first. They get to hear like works in progress. Thanks to Discord, it makes it super easy to. I don't have to create a Patreon post now. I can send them the works in progress and stuff like that before the public gets it. Like when Carnival of Animals released on Base Rebels earlier this month, late last month.
You did that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that was already out for 6 months if you were on my Patreon list, and 8 months if you were Adi. Adi is the sound engineer who does every con, actually. So, he was the Blue Husky doing the stuff during the dance comp last night. Anyway, forget it. I guess what I'm getting at is like, don't get tied up in offering exclusive shit because that will double down how fast you burn out. Once you have to make stuff for your Patreon and make stuff to actually build your audience, you have to make twice as much shit. High five? All right, fine. Let's see. Oh yeah, some other ideas for stuff you can sell. Like I said, after parties, exclusive events, You're not, you know, like, if you just sit in a bedroom and draw things, sure, but throw a party once in a while. Do like an art gallery exposition of some kind. And have, you know, like charge tickets or have like free cookies and stuff only for your Patreon people, whatever it takes. Like, I'm sure there's a coffee shop that would love to put your, as long as it's not all dog dicks, look, put your, hell, fuck it, there might be a coffee shop that's okay with that. I live in Seattle, you would be surprised. But like, you know, they're like, you don't have to like rent an art gallery to do some kind of an event. A coffee shop or something would love to have you do some kind of an event and bring in customers to buy their coffee and buy their sandwiches or their beers and cocktails, you know, craft drinks, whatever it is that they do at that establishment, and sit around and talk to you, the artist. And you can make new fans that way and say, oh, by the way, yeah, these goodie bags that I have sitting over here on this table, they're for my VIP people. If you're interested in one of these, here, join my Patreon. You can use the rewards themselves as a way to entice people into your artwork. I'm still trying to find a way to make this happen with the after parties.
Yeah.
I used to do members-only after parties at conventions, but what I want to do is create an after party. For a while I tried charging admission to the after parties, and then I realized that's technically like charging for beer. Right, yeah, that's not legal. That could get me into some real deep shit with the Liquor Control Board. But effectively, it was a way for like the Patreon fans would get in for free, and other people, if they wanted to come to the after party after the concert, would pay like $20 and they get a copy of my album along with it. But then they would be mingling at an after party with me and with my hardcore supporters who are evangelizing for me and telling them about all the cool shit that I'm doing. So you can use your rewards and your events as a way to advertise your stuff. Does that make sense? Like the more you can get it to become like an automated machine, like a self-building machine, the better. But I'm still working on how to properly do that. There's only like a minute or two left here. Does anybody have any questions I did not answer about how to handle something like Patreon? What? You just got here.
True, but if you have no patrons, is it worth posting anything, or?
So, if you were here at the beginning, you would have caught that I said like you have to actually start with like building your mailing list and doing normal art business stuff, because Patreon is more like a VIP club than it is just a marketplace. It is where a very small percentage of your existing fans are going to end up, not where you're going to find new fans. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, not really. If you want to post stuff on Patreon, don't. Just build a portfolio and then release that as one big project. You should have been here for like literally the last hour. I'm not going to recap the whole last hour for you, but in a nutshell, don't release stuff on Patreon to nobody. Release it to nobody for a full year, and then you have a full stack of, hey, look, this is my portfolio called Dog Dicks of America, or whatever it is you do. Yeah.
Would it be cool if we contact you later on Twitter or Telegram or whatever, just to make your brain...
Yeah, just not for a finish, because it's down.
Oh, what's that? Fuck that.
Yeah, actually, here, let me do this here.
Because I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of questions the moment I walk out that door. Always works that way.
So actually, here's a good way to do this. Because you're all furries, you're all on Telegram, I'm sure. You can go to MatthewEble.com and email me if you have any other questions. Or you can jump into my Telegram group, MatthewEble.com/Telegram. If you want to join me there, you can always ask questions. I'm happy to answer questions about this shit. Just be aware that, sometimes I am like incarcerated on a plane and I can't answer immediately. Or just be comfortable with the fact that I may be answering your questions while pooping, because we already discussed that too. So,
There's a drop down on Monday for that.
yes! There's a fetish for that. And I made myself sad by reminding myself of that.
So is that a group right there, or is that your private?
No, MatthewEeble.com/Telegram is the Matthew Eeble fans group on Telegram. But I'm back to the first panel on Friday that I did, branding. Look for @MatthewEeble on pretty much anything.
Okay.
Like if you can type in Matthew Eeble, you can pretty much find me on any fucking platform. If you can't, please tell me and I will sign up on that platform. You know?
All right. Good news.
Have you heard of Mealy? It's one a lot of artists are now jumping on. and
That's a
getting
new one.
into.
Yeah, all right.
How do you spell that?
Like MEWE.
Okay. We'll try and remember that.
Mew.
Yeah,
Pretty sure.
It's Mia.com.
Silver Gatoman, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gatoman, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gatoman, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.